But then if you don't care, why wouldn't you say, oh my God, I'm like the biggest Taylor Swift fan?
I mean, who would Biden say if you asked him? He would say ice cream. Ice cream is so good.
My favorite music. I'm Grace Weinstein. This is WTF America, and we're doing things a little bit different this week. Normally, we'd be talking about the primaries from Iowa to New Hampshire, which we talked about last time, so make sure you watch that if you haven't yet. But we've got Nevada this week, and everybody's like, what the hell is going on here? Because Trump is on the caucus ballot, Nikki Haley's on the primary ballot, but does it really matter? No. So we're awaiting South Carolina, and in the meantime, we thought we'd play a little game to catch us up to speed on what else is going on in the political world. So I've collected a couple clips. Steve has collected a couple clips. Steve, the Recount senior political producer, who graces us with his beautiful presence for the third time in a row. It always is about me, actually, at the end of the day. So we're going to go through these clips together and make sure we know what we're talking about. I was mulling over a couple names of what to call this. Can I tell them to you?
I don't feel like I have a choice in the matter.
Are you ready? Because like, what if we do this again and we wanted to have like a name and a cute graphic? That's like kind of where my brain was at.
Just say what you came up with.
Clips and dip.
Okay.
Clippery when wet. Clip service. Clip off. Do you like any of these?
What's
Are any of them working for you?
Clip service is
like
a pun
lip
on...
service.
Oh, lip service.
Paying you clip service. Kind of good.
Yeah, I would be verklempt if we didn't call it clippery when wet.
Clippery when wet. I do think that was the winner. There's something about clippery that just like really takes it home for me. So we have a couple clips here. I'm going to show two. You're going to show two. We're going to talk about them. And to me, this is such a like perfect way to actually get into what's going on in politics right now. There are little sound bites. Things are taken out of context constantly. There's a million people doing a million different things on a million red carpets, blue carpets.
Red carpet?
Red
Who's
carpets.
on a red carpet?
We'll get to somebody on the red carpet. I assume that the carpet in the Senate is blue. Feels like it would be blue, right?
I'm thinking like green, but...
Green, like Mary Cosby's house?
Yeah, like that is the vibe of like, it's kind of like nursing home vibes. It's like funeral home.
So there was a Senate hearing last week where they were talking about social media, how it harms everybody, but specifically children and teenagers. Mm-hmm. And they brought in the leads of all of these social companies, Mark Zuckerberg from Meta, Linda Yaccarino from X, although I'm not sure what children are using X, Evan Spiegel from Snap, just all of the biggest ones. We have Senator Tom Cotton, who's from Arkansas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he zeroes in on the CEO of TikTok, and this entire line of questioning is directed at him. Mm-hmm. All right.
Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in Singapore. No, I did not.
Do you have a Singaporean passport?
Yes, and I served my military for two and a half years in Singapore.
Do you have any other passports from any other nations?
No, Senator.
Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
The thing that this reminded me of the most was Kamala Harris's questioning of Brett Kavanaugh at his 2018 confirmation hearing for the Supreme Court. If real watchers of the show will remember that she had this line of questioning as a senator then towards him that was like, have you ever discussed the Trump-Russia investigation, which at that point, was what a lot of people were pinning their hopes on to take down Trump, whatever. Have you ever discussed it with anyone at this random fucking law firm in D.C.? And you could see his gears turning in real time where he was like, have I ever discussed, does she know something that I don't? Whatever. And I do think that's the backdrop of a lot of Senate hearings sometimes, to me, is trying to catch them up and then make it look like their hesitation to answer because they know that they're under oath
is revelatory.
Actually evidence of them concealing something.
Okay. Does that work?
That's what it gave to me.
Does that work?
Well, it worked for Harris because everybody was like, what does she know? What's she on to? Whatever. In this case, you did need to finesse a little more, I think, than just repeatedly asking someone who's already made clear that they're Singaporean, if they're Singaporean. Also, I read that apparently you can't have dual passports in either China or Singapore.
Neither country allows dual citizenship, yes. Yeah. So it's like you maybe ask that question once, which you would reveal to me that Tom Cotton didn't do his homework. you ask the question twice, shame on you. Ask the question 3 times, shame on me. Whatever that phrase is. It made no sense to me when you had this entire opportunity to really press this group of people who have gotten away with kind of unbridled power for so long. And everybody else seemed to have done it, other than Senator John Kennedy, who was talking about cottage cheese and asked Evan Spiegel if he knew what the term yada, yada, yada meant. And Evan Spiegel was like, I have literally no idea what you're talking about. But a lot of people did actually use their time during this hearing to put their feet to the fire. Lindsey Graham did. Amy Klobuchar was hair on fire during it. So it's like, I don't understand how a moment like this fits in at all.
There was a cool moment, I think, from that hearing where Mark Zuckerberg actually apologized to like victims of child exploitation at one point.
So it was, he stood up, turned around, and families were in the hearing room holding photos of children that they had lost for bullying or something that had to do with, you know, their use of social media. And he turned around and he said, I'm so sorry for your loss. But there was no personal accounting for, I'm so sorry for what the company that I have created and the culture that has proliferated largely because of me has done to cause this pain for your family. So it was a little half-assed, but it was definitely like a dramatic media moment, which I guess both the tech CEOs and the Congress people are kind of looking for.
That's what this is about at the end of the day. Okay, my clip. So this is Joe Biden at a campaign appearance somewhere, and he is referencing a world leader who he says he just met with. Let's talk about it.
And I sat down and I said, America's back. And Mitterrand from France looked at me and said, you know, how long are you back for?
What's the one word that you would use to describe that clip?
An oopsie daisy.
All right, so in that clip, there were 2 things going on. Number 1, Joe Biden says that he met with Mitterrand from Germany. And then he corrects himself and says from France. Did you take French?
I was a French minor in college.
Were you really?
I didn't know that.
In that clip, 2 things are going on. Number 1, Joe Biden says Mitterrand.
Fantastic. Well done.
Oh my God.
No, I actually think that was good. I'm being serious.
Okay. Merci. And
yeah.
says from Germany, and then has to correct himself and say from France. And he's telling the story saying, I met with this guy right after I was inaugurated. The problem is this guy was the French president from 1981 to 1995. He seems to have a slip up where he's meaning to talk about Emmanuel Macron, who is the current president of France. Macron. So not only is he like confusing this guy being from Germany, he's also confusing the current French president for someone who was the French president before we were both born. And then more than that, just the labored way he's telling the story, the halting, stop, starting, it's a little painful to watch, you know? And there was a lot of discussion of this being kind of emblematic of Biden's difficulties speaking in public, and really the overarching concern of the public about him, which is his age.
Sure. I have so many mixed feelings about this.
Okay.
I really do.
Tell me 2 of them.
As somebody who like walks into a room sometimes, gets to the doorway, and I'm like,
why did I walk into
For
this
what
room?
purpose did I arrive here? Like, I literally don't remember. And for somebody who, you know, might mix up the names Tom Cotton and Josh Hawley, like I do think that there is a level of okayness that we need to accept, that like people fuck up names and dates and words
100%.
and people all the time.
Yeah.
Macron, Mitterrand, they both start with F. See? They both start with M. I get it. Germany is not France, sure. Okay. That being said, it's also hard for me when, you know, that's a 1-minute clip or whatever, and we're removing that from a larger statement of like, as a whole. He's obviously giving a speech of some kind. I don't know where this was. I'd be curious to see how that clip within the larger speech actually like performed. Like, what was that good evidence of his speech pattern the entire time? Or was that him fumbling for a minute in the middle of a speech, as he tends to do, and as he's tended to do for a lot of his career? Defense of him aside, it is absolutely hard to watch. And that's something that I really struggle with, because it's like, watching him, walk up the stairs to Air Force One, I'm like, okay, don't fall. Like, I have this kind of anxiety of like when you see an old person that you're worried about tripping and like breaking a hip. I do get that. And not just from a physicality perspective, but from a verbal perspective. The last thing I'll say on that, though, is I look at Donald Trump and he's bumbling and has no idea what he's talking about, like, a ton of the time now, too. I would say significantly more now than 4 years ago by, like, tons to me. But is it great to watch? No.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that's the bottom line. I 100% agree. To me, I agree on the mixing up thing. We all mix things up. We all, and he has literally the most stressful job in the world. Like,
yeah.
How many times have we said, "Oh, sorry, my brain is spaced today. I'm having a crazy week at work or something."
Right, and it's because you're not responding to me on Slack or something, and that's
And meanwhile,
throwing me over the edge.
This is like the most stressful job in the world. So yeah, I totally agree giving grace there. But just watching it, I just don't know how you can dismiss out of hand people's concerns about the age thing. Like whether or not, someone could sound awful in the way their words come out and be totally mentally fine. Someone could sound totally normal in the way the words are coming out and be saying absolute gibberish. That's not, the cadence and the undulations of your voice, whatever, are not inherently markers of your mental state. With that being said, I just don't know how you say to the average voter who's not super plugged in, who's not like following all these things all the time, hey, that guy is totally fine, and if you're even concerned about it, you're being ageist or whatever. I think that's going to be a big stumbling block for them this election.
I think people underestimate how many people just accept that that is his age and this is what he sounds like, and they're going to vote for him anyway. Like, I think there's a lot of people who go, yeah, valid, he's old, he's too old, but it's what we're going to do. I think that most people have kind of come to settle in that space.
Yeah, his voters, certainly.
His voters, and maybe Trump's voters as well, or Trump's voters are probably in another universe going, no, he's actually way younger than you're saying that he is. And he's even younger and sprightly and beautiful.
The body double Biden theory is one of my favorites.
Love, and the body double Melania theory. We can get into that another time. That's so true.
The body
They're
doubles
dating.
are dating. Yeah.
Oh my God, I would love to see that.
Okay.
All right.
Third clip.
Next one. The Super Bowl is this Sunday, and I will personally be watching. Are you gonna watch?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sure.
I low-key want Travis Kelce to win. We can talk about this later.
Okay, yeah, it's we got Taylor Swift in the building, we got Travis Kelce in the building. People are gunning for the Chiefs. A nation of Swifties is ready, chomping at the bit. And typically, in recent history, the president is invited to give a sit-down interview before the Super Bowl in the pregame show. Biden was going back and forth with CBS as to what they were going to do. An invite was extended. Biden said, you know what? No, I'm not going to go.
For the second year in a row.
For the second year in a row. And this is his communications director, who actually I've never seen before in my life, which poses a different set of problems that we can talk about another time. Being questioned about the decision not to do the interview on CNN.
This is free advertising, if you will. This is millions and millions, tens of millions of eyeballs. So why would the president not want to do that? It seems like an easzy decision.
Again, the president's going to continue to campaign and continue to hold interviews across the country from now through November. Not too concerned about pregame coverage right now in February of 2024. We're far more concerned about speaking directly to the voters who are going to decide this election.
So let me just tell you one more thing about this, because he went out there and said this. There's another article that was released about them denying the interview that did mention one of the biggest frustrations that the Biden team is running into is they feel like people don't know enough about his accomplishments, that the only press they get is here are his failures, and they haven't figured out quite how to highlight his accomplishments and let more people know all of the good things that they think he has done. To me, wouldn't this be a perfect place to do that? The Super Bowl pregame show where millions, as he said, millions and millions of people are going to be watching for free. You can sit down and speak to those achievements as much as you want. To pass up that opportunity, to me, feels a little bit like we need to keep hiding him behind the scenes, which I think is detrimental to their campaign and their mission to get more people to understand the things that he has done.
I think that's a valid point to make. I think the problem for the Biden team is that their two biggest liabilities are people are not satisfied with his record and people think he's way too old. And the solution to one of those is for him to be out there talking more about his record. The solution to the other is to minimize the time that he's in public so that people don't realize how old he is.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, just in a broader way, Biden has held fewer press conferences than I think any president in modern history, certainly since Reagan. And when he gives interviews, they're often to influencers. Like he's given more interviews to Dylan Mulvaney, I think, than some networks, some network news outlets, which is totally fine if that's your strategy to reach, people who don't talk to the president usually, whatever, on TikTok, whatever. But if your goal is to do a full court press of the press and change the narrative, not talking to people is not a great start for that.
And I understand at the same time, they said, like, you know what? It's a day about football. People just want to enjoy football. They don't want to hear from us. It's just going to make people mad. I'm like, these people are already going to be mad because they're staring at Taylor Swift 40 times.
That's the thing, yeah.
Like, just might as well make them madder if the opportunity presents itself. Biden has given 86 interviews. Trump had given 300, and Obama had given more than 400.
Holy shit.
At this point in their
Holy
presidency.
shit. Wow,
Yes.
really? I didn't know it was that bad.
Yes. Obviously, Trump jumped in on Truth Social and was like, I'll do it for him. The ratings would be gold. But they're not going to invite him anyway. So we're not going to get Biden before the Super Bowl, and we'll see if that's a good thing or not.
Yeah, I mean, in a broad way, I think that both of these candidates this year are going to have a lot of incentive to not do a lot of interviews in which they can't plan stuff. All right, this last clip is Nikki Haley appeared on SNL this weekend. Did you know that?
She did?
You
No,
know that?
I
You didn't
missed
know that?
that.
Oh yeah, Nikki Haley was on SNL. Let's take a look.
My question is, why won't you debate Nikki Haley?
Oh my God, it's her, the woman who was in charge of security on January 6th. It's Nancy Pelosi.
The Trump
For
impersonator.
the 100th time, that is not Nancy Pelosi.
You know, I'm confident because I'm a man. That's why a woman should never run our economy. Women are terrible with money.
And you've spent $50 million in your own legal fees. Do you need to borrow some money?
Oh, Nikki, don't do this, Nikki. Nikki Tiki Tavi. Nikki, don't lose that number. Nikki Haley, Joel Osment. Nikki Haley, Joel Osment, we call her. 6 cents. Remember that one? I see dead people.
Holy shit. I don't know who that is doing that impression.
He's the one who went viral for a couple years doing it on Twitter or whatever, and then they hired him for SNL. I think he basically just does the Trump impression.
As he should. That's like the best
really
one
good.
I've ever
Yeah.
seen.
It's so much better than Alec Baldwin. Like, thank God our long national nightmare is over there.
Yeah.
Now, I think there are a couple things to say about this clip. Number one would be, just as an example of how in the bubble this clip is, this is a parody of Gayle King and Charles Barkley's CNN show, which airs,
Do you know who Charles Barkley is?
Yeah, he's co-hosting a CNN show with Gayle King.
Do you know who he was before that?
He played a sport.
You don't even know which one.
Golf.
God damn. Basketball.
Okay, well, I don't assume things
continue.
about people. And that show premiered to like
It's
the
bad.
lowest ratings
It's bad.
on CNN in like 15 years.
Yeah.
So the fact that that SNL is like, let's do a fucking parody of this show on CNN that nobody fucking watches is a little bit like emblematic of how in the bubble this sketch is. With that being said, what are your thoughts?
Here's the thing. The Trump impression is hilarious because it's accurate. And that's a little scary to begin with because him saying, I see dead people, like I could just hear him saying that, even though this is supposed to be absurd and parody. It doesn't feel that way. Why they would allow Nikki Haley onto the SNL set is a bit confusing for me because they claim to be, for artists, progressive, culturally sensitive in a lot of ways. But then again, they invited Dave Chappelle up there last week, so they clearly don't have an issue with people who have an issue with trans people.
So that's my question here, because that's a lot of the discussion that was being had about this, which was, she's so blah, 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 why would they ever do this? SNL claims to be whatever, or do they claim to be progressive? I don't even know. I mean, they had Trump host it in 2015. A lot of people forget that. Go look up the Hotline Bling parody that they did if you want a time capsule into 2015. But I guess the reason I brought it up and the interesting point to me is like, what Republican should be allowed on SNL, you know? Like if your standard is if you don't meet these things, you shouldn't be allowed to appear on SNL. Like I just think it's an interesting point of like whose views are disqualifying from being able to joke with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And to me,
I don't think we have a clear answer to that question.
No, I feel like I can joke with anybody can joke with me, but I have like very liberal views on that.
Liberal views?
Yeah, like I liberally, I accept.
No, you're like pretty
jokes
progressive
liberally.
in the way that you deal with people.
No, I have like a liberal acceptance of jokes. I'm not conservative about like what I think can be a joke or can't be a joke. You know, I maybe whatever.
No, I think it's funny you're using those terms because one might say that some liberals are very conservative in the way that they
100%.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, and we've had this discussion for years. It's not that they're platforming Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley has a platform because she's running for president. She's going to be getting attention on some TV show, on some network, no matter what. It's like when people get angry that we post a clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it's like, okay, do you understand that she is a member of Congress and like has this megaphone, whether we are the one who plugged it into the wall or not? Like it's still there and her voice is still being amplified to me.
And I totally agree. And even more than that, I would love to see the Venn diagram of people who watch SNL and are going to determine Haley's outcome in the primary, because it might be even smaller than that, actually.
I have a bonus one that like I just am so curious. I just needed to know your answer on like what the hell you think that this is about. I find this very, very strange. Nancy Pelosi goes to the Clive Davis Grammys pre-party every year, and two people on the red carpet asked her the same question, and I found her answer so bizarre and inconsistent with things that she has said in the past. So I need to know where you're at on this.
And I have to ask you, who's your favorite musician of all time?
Now, you see, I'm a politician.
Okay.
And I would never say that because I have in different categories, in different eras.
And so you've been an inspiration to many women. Is there a female artist that you especially admire?
So many, so many. And as a politician, it would be beyond politics to name anyone in particular.
What the hell is that?
She's a politician, baby.
She's a politician, so she can't say, because historically in the past she has talked about she's the biggest U2 fan in the world. She loves Bob Dylan. She's a Deadhead, and she's done interviews about this. So what is the pivot to, I'm a politician, I couldn't possibly tell you what musicians I like to listen to?
Here's my thing with Nancy Pelosi. I think she's on her senior spring right now. She is, if Joe Biden wins re-election, she is out of there, I think, on January 22nd, 2025.
A helicopter with a rope just comes
100%.
down and she grabs it and flies through the sky.
She's rapturing out of that fucking city. Maybe to the Vatican to be ambassador or something. Who knows? Like, that's always been the rumor. So my thing is I think she probably just really doesn't care anymore.
But then if you don't care, why wouldn't you say, oh my God, I'm like the biggest Taylor Swift fan? I don't know.
I mean, who would Biden say if you asked him? He would say ice cream. Ice cream is so good.
My favorite musician. Maybe next time we'll play what song would like this person in Congress play if they had the aux cord at the party. That would be a fun game to prepare for next time. Thank you for watching What the Fuck America. I'm Grace. He's Steve. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Like and subscribe. Bye.